Hello, my name is Jennie Dorsey. I'm the Director of Education for the American Cider Association and here with you today to practice structured sensory analysis. And today we're featuring Willie Smith Kingston Black. A few things you want to make sure you have with you today: pencil, your structured sensory evaluation forms if you wish to fill them out with me. You want to make sure you have stemmed glassware if you can, but make sure the bowl is large enough so that you can put 2 fingers or about 2 ounces worth of cider into it, and a spit cup. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so for the purposes of the exam, you want to make sure you have just about 2 fingers worth of cider in your glass. This is exactly the same amount that you'll be given. You want to make sure you have enough room to swirl, but also enough in your glass to practice with. We are doing certified Promelier exam prep, so we'll want to do everything as close as possible to exam situations. So if you can, you'll want to taste blind. We know that that's not what we're doing right now, but if possible, you want to taste blindly. Okay, so first we're going to taste with our eyes, taste with our nose, and then taste with our mouth. So in the appearance section is worth 2 points. That means each segment is worth half a point. So that is clarity, intensity, color, and carbonation. For clarity, we have 3 options: clear, cloudy, or opaque. In order to score our full half a point, we must choose exactly one option. Is it clear, is it cloudy, or is it opaque? In order to know is it clear, is it cloudy, or is it opaque, we have a couple of options for how to find that out. One option is we can put our finger behind the glass. Notice how I'm not touching the glass. My finger isn't against it. It's just right behind it. And when I look through the glass at its deepest point, so you notice I'm looking into the deepest part of the glass, if I can see my finger and its print, then it is clear. If I can see my finger, but I can't see the print, then it's cloudy. And if I cannot see my finger or the print, then it is opaque. So I can see my finger, but I cannot see the print. So this would be cloudy. So I would write cloudy. The second option would be if you have a piece of paper that has writing on it, which you would because you have your exam. You would do the same thing with the page. You would hold the page up at the same distance that you held your finger. And if you can see that there's writing and read what the writing says, it is clear. If you can see there's writing, but you can't quite tell what it says, it's cloudy. And if you can't see any writing at all, then it is opaque. So I can see that there's writing, but I cannot see what it says. So it would be cloudy. So I would write cloudy in order to earn my half a point. Now for intensity. And again, in order to earn half a point, I must choose just one answer here. Is it pale, is it medium, or is it deep? Unlike what is taught in many wine schools, intensity and color are not a combined answer. It is not either pale straw, pale yellow. They are separate answers. So is it pale, is it medium, or is it deep? And how we find that answer is the easiest way is to use the back side of our page so that it's completely clear. Turn our glass at a 45-degree angle. Look down into the deepest part of our glass and see how if there is a watery rim or any amount of clear along the outside edge. So what I'm looking for is as I look down into my glass, you'll see the deepest part has the most concentration of color. Does it remain the same color from the middle all the way to the end? Or does the color change into more clear as it gets to the edge of the glass? So what I'm looking for is if the color goes from the center and remains the same all the way to the edge of the glass, the intensity is deep. If the color is from the center only to about halfway, and then the other half is a watery rim, then the intensity is medium. If the color is only in the very center and then the rest is watery, then it is pale. For this cider, the color goes all the way to the edge. So this would be a deep intensity cider. And again, I must choose only one answer. If you choose more than one answer, even if one of those answers is correct, neither one can be counted. Now, we're going to be looking at color. So you may think that with cider, okay, so maybe a lot of them are going to be in the yellow category. And you're probably correct. However, there are many different shades of yellow. So what we're going to be looking at are the undertones. When it comes to undertones, if it's straw, the undertone would be more green. Think Sauvignon Blanc, where you'd have a very definite green undertone. If it's yellow, the undertone would be true yellow. If it's gold, the undertone would be actual gold, and you would be allowed to wear gold jewelry. So you would be able to check yourself with gold jewelry. If it was amber, the undertone would be orange. And then we move into copper, where the liquid itself would be orange. Pink, the liquid would be pink. Ruby, the liquid would be red. Purple, purple. Garnet is when you start to see a brown hue into the liquid. Okay, so as I'm looking into my glass, I want to make sure, if possible, that I have the most daylight. If not, then I would want to make sure I'm using my white paper in order to get the most clear example of what my cider actually is. So this is a copper cider. You can see how it is orange. This is a copper cider. And again, you must choose one answer. Now, you might say, well, what if it's right in the middle? What if it is between gold and amber? What if it has both gold and orange undertones? So the grading key is actually made by at least 4 certified sommeliers who have gotten together to taste each and every cider together. And they each fill out one of these forms separately, and then they come together to make a consensus form. That means that if they cannot come to a consensus, 2 answers might be allowed to be correct. So maybe in that instance, maybe gold and amber were allowed to be correct. However, you as a test taker would have to choose one of them. But if you chose either gold or amber, either one would be correct. But if you as a test taker wrote both, you wouldn't be given points for either. So again, only write one answer. Now, we're moving on to carbonation. So you might think it's strange that carbonation is in the appearance section, but what we're going to do is we're first going to look for carbonation in appearance, and when I'm taking my exam, I make sure that I put a little star next to carbonation. And I do that because I remind myself to go back to carbonation once I'm at the palate section as well. So what I'm looking for is, see this rim of carbonation or mousse? So I at least know it is not still. Okay, so based on what I'm seeing, it looks petulant, but I don't see a lot of active carbonation. See a little, but I don't see a lot. But I won't know for sure until I can make sure in my mouth that it doesn't feel the active carbonation. So I put a star next to it, which means come back to it. If you know yourself and you know that you will forget, at least write in an answer so you have the possibility of getting it correct. Because leaving an answer blank means you can never get it correct. Writing in an answer that you think it might be at least gives you the possibility of getting it correct. Okay, now we're going to taste with our nose. So before we swirl in the glass, we're actually going to go in and go for the aroma intensity. And I like to reference my aroma intensity by referencing my personal body markers, because my body markers don't change. And you can then reference the same with your body markers every time. The note being that my body markers and your body markers might not be the same. However, you can build up a reference guide for yourself to know that each and every time your body markers will be the same. Okay? So for me, if an aroma intensity was pronounced, it would be at my sternum here, which means that without swirling, I should be able to pick up aromas more than just, I know there's a cider here. I should be able to pick up any specific aromatics. And I can't. I know there's a cider here, but I'm not getting anything that I would say this is a pronounced aroma. So my next body marker, to make it medium plus, would be my throat level. And actually, I am picking up aromas here. But just to be sure, I'm going to bring it up to medium level, which is my chin. And I'm definitely picking up aromas here. If, let's say I wasn't getting any, medium minus would be my lip. Definitely here. If for some reason I still wasn't, then we would say light aromas would be my nose in the glass. Here. So those are my body markers, and I do them the same every time. So that's how I know what the aroma intensity is, by doing it the same here, 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 and here every time. You can make yours whatever they are on your body, as long as you do it the same every time, and make those mean the same things every time. So however your body is configured, that's what works for you. But just make sure that that position on your body would mean pronounced, medium plus, medium, medium minus, or light. Where light probably would always be with your nose in the glass. So for me, based on my body markers, this is a medium plus aroma intensity, because I'm getting it when it's all the way down here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and give the glass a big swirl. And now is the fun part, where we're going to pull out the second part of our form, which is actually given to you during your exam. Possible aromas and flavors. These are not the only possible aromas and flavors. This is actually given to you to help jog your brain into putting aromas to words. So we're gonna put that out and go ahead and swirl our glass, dive in, and start to write down as many aroma characteristics as we can find. So the entire aroma section is worth 4 points. Aroma intensity is worth 1, which means aroma characteristics is worth 3. In order to gain all 3 points, you need to match 3 aroma characteristics with the sensory forum. That means that all 4 of the certified sommeliers, when they got together, every note that they found got put into a bucket, and any aroma characteristics that can be found are anything from that bucket that all 4 of those people found. Okay, now to go in. So go ahead and give your glass a nice swirl and then go in. All right, so I have caramel, red apple, slate. If you're finding it difficult to find some aromas, open your mouth up just a little bit. Smoke, grilled pineapple, coconut husk, eucalyptus, so again, remember it's worth 3 points, so you must have at least 3 matches, which means if you only write down 3, you might be doing yourself a disservice. I would recommend that first, write as many as you can find. If you're struggling to find 5, I would say take a second, smell the inside of your elbow. That is your reset to you, to your body. Make sure that you're not wearing scented lotions, colognes, anything like that. But the inside of your elbow is the reset to your body. Take a second, regroup, go back in. Orchard floor. You'd be surprised what you can find again. Also, if you find yourself struggling at this point, stop, move on, come back. I found a lot. I found, I don't know how many that is, 8 or 9. I hope you found just as many. I hope you found even more. This is a really expressive cider that I'm so excited to be able to move on to the palate for. Okay, so the palate section is worth 12 points. So, palate section is weighed pretty heavily on this. The flavor characteristics is worth 5. All of the other elements are worth 1. So, sweetness, acidity, tannin, flavor intensity, complexity, body, and finish are each worth 1. And again, that means flavor characteristics, you must match at least 5. So you must match 5 to get the 5 points. So if I were you, I wouldn't write just 5 unless that's all you found. If you found more, I would write more. And just as a note, when we are choosing ciders for this, as graders, as the sensory forum, we make sure that we can find at least 20 characteristics, or else that cider doesn't make the cut in order to be included as an exam cider. So, just so you know, we always make sure we find ciders that are expressive enough to be included. Now, let's go in for the palate. One thing here that I just want to mention, be cautious when consuming too much water on the palate section. It does tend to alter your palate depending on where you are. It might alter your palate slightly. So just be cautious of that, as you're maybe, it can alter the pH of your mouth. So if you're gonna take a drink of water, which you definitely should be, make sure to take a second for your palate to reset back to its normal stasis. Okay, now we're gonna go start with sweetness. So sweetness, we are working on perceived sweetness. Is it dry, semi-dry, semi-sweet, or sweet? And again, you must choose one. It's very unlikely that it could be multiple answers, but always, 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 the test taker must choose one. Be wary of fruitiness, as it can come across as something that tricks you into thinking that something is sweeter. Because even though we are talking about perceived sweetness, we want to make sure that we're not confusing fruitiness for sweetness. So when I put the cider into my mouth, I move it one side to the other side, not like mouthwash where you're swishing it, but ever so gently, one side to the other side. So a dry cider would have no sweetness whatsoever. A semi-dry cider would be mostly dry with a touch of sweetness, but it must finish dry. A semi-sweet cider would still have some dryness, but it would finish sweet. And a sweet cider would be sweet. So this is This is a semi-dry cider. Has a touch of sweetness. Definitely has some fruitiness, but it finishes dry. This is a semi-dry cider. Now, acidity. How do we find acidity? Acidity is immediate salivation because it is a change it is a body reaction to a change in the pH. So how we do this is we count the number of seconds we salivate on a scale of 1 to 10. So we count the salivation in seconds. 1 to 2 seconds being low, 3 to 4 being medium minus, 5 to 6 being medium, 7 to 8 being medium plus, 9 to 10 being high. And just note that this is my count and my numbers, but just make sure again that if your count is different, which it can be, you can count in Mississippi's, you can count in whatever you'd like to, as long as it is the same every time and that you are calibrated. So as long as that is the case, then that's fine. So again, we're gonna go in. You notice how for each one of these, I'm taking individual sips and then I'm spitting. And it's very important that you're not trying to take one sip and do everything because it's really easy to get confused between acidity and tannin, acidity and sweetness, if you're going through and trying to do too many things at once. So I'm just gonna focus on acidity. How long do I salivate directly after I spit the cider? All right, now we're going to work on acidity, so I'm between 5 and 6 seconds, which puts me square into that medium acidity. So I'm at medium acidity. All right, now moving right on to tannin, which is the amount of the taste of bitterness and the feeling of astringency. So there used to be studies, remember the diagram of the tongue where they would point to where you would taste bitterness. Those are not true. The taste of bitterness happens in many places along your tongue, but the feeling of astringency for different people actually happens in different places. A lot of people feel it along their gum line in the front and the back, or on the back of your teeth, under your tongue. But again, it's a feeling or the taste of bitterness. So think about if you leave a tea bag steeping for too long, the feeling and the taste of that. And that's actually a really great tool to practice with. If you're not sure that you can taste bitterness and feel astringency, then I would make an oversteeped black tea and taste that by itself to understand what that tastes like. Now we'll go in and we'll try just focusing on tannin. Understanding that the feeling of astringency can be confused with the feeling of acidity, but that it doesn't happen right away. So we want to make sure that we're not confusing the two of those things. So I have some astringency. I get just a little bit back here and a little taste of bitterness. This is a medium tannin. Now, this really only works if you have a couple of spit cups, or if you make sure to dump your spit cup when you are, and this is a little gross, don't tell anybody, but if you want to double check that you're looking at tannins correctly, look into your spit cup. And if you see lots of chunks in your spit cup, you have a higher tendency that your cider has tannins in it. If you see no chunks at all, your cider probably doesn't have any tannins in it. Just a little hint. But if you have spit multiple ciders into the same cup, that doesn't work. But just a little hint that that's something you can use to double check yourself. Okay, move on to flavor intensity. Now, this is your exam. You can take these in whatever order you like. Me personally, I like to move flavor intensity down one and do my flavor characteristics first. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to move down to flavor characteristics and do those first. Okay, moving on to flavor characteristics. So again, take cider into my mouth, move from side to side, and then flavor characteristics is worth 5. So I'm just going to jot down as many of them as I find. I'm going to use this form for reference. This is not going to be the only things that I'll be able to use, but I want to make sure that I am writing down things that could possibly be answers. That means that if they're too obscure or things that are too personal, that they couldn't be a match. So let's say that if you wrote that it tastes like something so personal to you. Let's say if you wrote that it tastes like your favorite cocktail, or it tastes like, without any more explanation, or that it tastes like a winter's eve, or that it's things that don't have any context. Those aren't worth any points. This is also where if you put faults without saying how you experienced them, those also wouldn't be worth points if they weren't there. So that means if you, in the flavor characteristics or in the aroma characteristics, if you noted a fault without saying how you experienced it. So let's say that you wrote acetic acid without saying a smell or a taste. That is not worth any points because you did not say how you experienced it in smell or taste. So if you find those things, you must say how you experienced them in smell or in taste. Okay, let's taste. So I've got red apple skin, caramel, grilled pineapple, coconut husk, bergamot, orchard floor, clove, honeycomb, smoke, orange peel, apricot. Okay, that's definitely more than 5. I think it's somewhere probably in the 10, 11, 12 range. I could keep going, but for the sake of this, that's a great list. I hope you got just as many, if not more. If you're watching this video, I'd love for you to comment even more that you got. I think it's really, really great to continue to express other aroma and flavor characteristics that you got from these ciders. So let's keep going. Now I'm gonna go right back up to that flavor intensity to make sure that I don't forget it. So when we're looking at flavor intensity, one way to think about this is a shape. So when we're talking about flavor intensity, is it round and nice and smooth and soft, or is it spiky like a star? As I was going through this, and I tasted all of these things, they were all quite smooth and round and blended together. So my flavor intensity is closer to the circle shape and less like the star shape. So my flavor intensity is actually a medium minus because it's closer. So the circle is low and the star shape that's all super spiky is high. And the closer I am to the really smooth circle, the lower the flavor intensity. The closer I am to the really, really spiky star, where all the flavors are super jagged and basically coming out at you like it's 3D, the higher the flavor intensity. This is much closer to that well-blended circle where everything is really blended in there nicely and it kind of just comfort coats you like a blanket. So this is a medium minus flavor intensity. Now, complexity. How complex is a cider? This is something I want to make very clear, that low complexity versus high complexity does not tell you how good the cider is. It simply tells you how many buckets of flavor characteristics the cider contains. It is not a measure of how good the cider is. A low complexity cider is just as good as a high complexity. It is simply a way for us to tell you about the cider. So, complexity, the number of flavor buckets or primary, so these here are your flavor buckets, your primary aromas and flavors. So palm fruit, citrus fruit, stone fruit, all the way down. Those are your buckets, okay? The number of flavor buckets that we found flavor and aroma characteristics in equals to the complexity of the cider. So if we have very few of them, this would be a low complexity cider. If we have a number of them, this would be a high complexity cider. The other factor to remember is how closely grouped together are they? Are they all in the fruit category? So if we had, let's say we had 3, but they're all palm, citrus, and stone fruit. That is less complex than if we had 3 and it was palm fruit, herbal, and spice. We can understand how that would be, the all fruit would be less complex than the other. So now we go in and we count the number of buckets. With 1 to 2 being low, 3 to 4 being medium minus, 4 to 5 being medium, 6 to 7 being medium plus, and 8 plus being high. Okay, red apple skin, caramel, grilled pineapple, coconut. So that puts us at palm fruit. We have orange peel at citrus. We have apricots for stone fruit. We have pineapple for tropical fruit. So that's 4 already. And then we had mint. So we had herbal or eucalyptus. We had herbal. We had cloves. So we had spice. That's 6 already. We had clove. And then we had, in secondary aromas, we had orchard floor, we had honeycomb, we had coconuts. So that puts us at 7. We had 7 buckets. So that would make this a medium plus complexity cider. Medium plus. Okay, now let's talk about body. Body is an equation that, so first we do the equation, and then second, we verify that equation with our palate. So the equation is alcohol plus sweetness plus tannin minus acidity and carbonation. Pretending that this is blinded, we don't know what it is, we don't see it. What are the things that we know? Well, we don't know alcohol. So, but we can, we can take an educated guess based on the feelings. So alcohol, because it is not super low, it's also not super high. So alcohol would be in the medium range. Sweetness, semi-dry. So again, medium minus range. Tannin, medium range. So right now we're in the medium body range. Minus acidity and carbonation. Acidity again in the medium range. Carbonation, petulant, medium range. So if my formula equation is correct, my body should be medium. But I'm not just going to rely on my equation. I'm going to taste it. Body is medium. So always, always, always taste it, because the equation is not 100%. It is simply a jumping off point to get you to the right spot. Now, finish. How long do the pleasing flavors last on the palate? So when we say pleasing, that doesn't mean the flavors that you like. That just means the flavors that are not feelings or structure. Okay? So not off flavors, not structure, so not acidity, not the feeling of astringency, and not off flavors. Those things don't count as finish. Finish are the pleasing flavors, those characteristics that we found. And again, we're going to do this as a count, exactly the same count as acidity. So 1 to 2 is low, 3 to 4 medium minus, 5 to 6 medium, 7 to 8 medium plus, 9 to 10 high. It's pretty short. The structure takes over pretty quickly. So I got about 3 seconds, which will put me in the medium minus for finish length. And I apologize, I said high, I meant long. Same, long. Okay, so we have done so much of our structured sensory analysis already. Now we just have one left, and it's worth 2 points. And that is the final assessment. For the final assessment, what we're doing is considering all of the things above and writing a short concluding statement, so 1 to 2 sentences, that talks about the balance, integration, and character of the cider. Notice those 3 words. Those 3 words are what are going to help you here. And I'm going to say a sentence for you in this video, but note that you will have access to download a copy of my completed sensory form, which will have this exact sentence written out for you. I recommend that you create for yourself a sentence that you can deconstruct and use over and over and over again, so that you don't have to think about how to write a perfect sentence. You just have to fill in the blanks. Because this is not an English class. This is a how to make sure that you can talk about a cider in the correct way to any person that comes in, and that they know exactly what they're getting from you. Look at that. I almost forgot, but I didn't. We're going right back up to carbonation. And I know I only have a little bit left, but there's more in the bottle. Now, is it petulant? Was it sparkling? We know it wasn't still, but it's petulant. We were right the first time. Doesn't hurt to go back in and make sure you're right. Now, on to our sentence. My final assessment for this cider is cloudy, deep copper, and petulant. This semi-dry cider is well balanced with medium acidity and tannin. Aromas and flavors of palm, citrus, stone, and tropical fruits are integrated into the complex secondary flavors, leaving a cider whose character is mature with lower intensity. You notice the 3 words that I used? Balanced, integration, character. If you noticed any faults or flaws, this is where you would note them in, especially if they were in balance or out of balance, if they were integrated into the cider or if they weren't, and how they affected the character of the cider. This is what this is supposed to be used for. This is not for you to tell me what it should be paired with. This is not for you to tell me if you liked it. This is for you to say the character of the cider. You should be able to fold this up, tear off this bottom portion, and you should be able to give this portion to anybody, and they should know if this is the right cider for them or not. That is the intent of this bottom portion, is this is a summary of the cider above. Okay? And again, we have access to a downloaded version of this if you wish to follow along. I appreciate each and every one of you, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the Certified Cider Professional Program. I'm here to help. I encourage you to taste as many ciders as you can. The exam is meant to be challenging, but it is definitely doable. And this is why we make these videos, to help you study. And we are here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. It's always welcome. Cheers. Lastly, practice makes better. I highly recommend using the resources available to you on our website and in our Facebook community. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to our channel for all things cider education.